Hello guys, welcome to my first ever, well, I would call it a tech review. This is to introduce the new TM6 to you guys. It's just hitting the markets in Germany, Italy and France, I believe, and it's coming out this year into Australia, also the US and the UK later on, I think in June. So I'm here to introduce you to that wonderful new gadget of mine and also to do a little review about all of the little features. And over the coming weeks, I'm going to get in depth about some of the additional updates and features you've got with this new Thermomix TM6 and also my final verdict as well. But today we're going to start off with my first impressions and what I think about this wonderful new addition of a Thermomix. I received my Thermomix not even long ago. It was actually just a few days back, and I'm really excited because it's a completely new gadget. It came completely out of the blue. No one expected a new TM6 to come out, and so I had to get my hands on one really quickly to see what this is all about. There's some really promising new features that Thermomix have released, so I really want to just talk you through some of these features in the next video, but this time I want to just talk you through how I actually set this guy up and what is different to what it was before, because the TM5 isn't actually that old. Now, when I initially got it, I actually had to set it up by registering it on the Cookie platform, which is the register platform with all of the lovely recipes of Vorwerk and Thermomix that you can register for. I just had to register. I had to then go into my Thermomix as I unpacked it. I typed in my Wi-Fi, so it's got integrated Wi-Fi now. I also typed in my Cookie platform registration email address and password, and that was pretty much all it took to set up this Thermomix model. Now, the registration process can take a bit longer, anywhere between 10 minutes and an hour. Some people take longer, some people take less time, but I found after 10 minutes I was just done and I was ready to use it. So integrated Wi-Fi, one big plus for me, which is really awesome because it also means all of the recipes that you find on Cookie are now straight on your Thermomix. No more cookie, no more recipe chips, nothing like that. You can literally just access everything as it comes out straight from your Thermomix. My initial first impression was amazing because I was completely blown away by the size of the display. It's considerably larger than the old one, so you actually get to see things properly when you weigh, when you dial in, and it's wonderful. So I'm going to take you through the screen a little bit because that's one of my most impressive features, I think, of the new TM6. Now, you've obviously got that new home screen where you have your minutes and your temperature, or seconds, any temperature, and your speed, which now I find just looks and sounds so much cooler. So you see, it's really nice, and dialing it up is pretty awesome. So that's pretty cool. You also, on this side, if you scroll to there, you will see it's now connected to my Wi-Fi, so it's got the entire Cookie platform, currently in German just because I got it from Germany as it's out there soon. And you could also change languages, of course, into any other language, now accessing all other Cookie platforms on the web. If you then go down, you will see the latest recipes, which are wonderful, so you will always be informed about new things that are there, and you can then discover new awesome recipes. I haven't really explored this platform much more, but next time I'll talk you through it more in depth. That's my just initial impressions. You can search for any recipe you like right at the top here, and you can type in whatever you just fancy, really. And it's got an integrated keyboard, which also helps you when you are signing up to Cookie and signing into your Wi-Fi. Okay, let's go back to the home screen. Now, you can also dial into the right-hand side, which shows you all of the new functions, or also some preset functions. Let me show you some of those functions. Actually, the scales are one massive new feature for me. They are now to the gram rather than to 5 grams, which is something I've been really dissatisfied with the TM5. I do a lot of baking, and when you are doing a lot of baking, you want to know that you are actually going really well and you actually are to the gram. Now, as you can see, I only need to lean on the table a little bit and it will already change. I've tried this with my slider, I've tried it without the slider. That's one thing I really noticed, is that they're so incredibly sensitive now that no matter if you have it on my slider or you have it just as it is, it will fluctuate slightly. So try and keep still when you're measuring something very sensitive. You can see if I just press on it slightly, it now goes to the gram and it's extremely accurate. I'll be putting it through a vigorous test though in my next video, where I'll be testing it to the half gram with my other scales. But so far I've been using it for about a day and it's done really well for me. You've got your dough mode, which is obviously really easy. It's the same as before. You've got a turbo mode, which is similar to the turbo mode we had before. Again, you can just go and select your time. If we go back, you've also got a pre-wash mode, which is wonderful. So essentially it's the same as you pre-washing it yourself, but it actually does the rotating of the blade for you. Now it dials into 5 minutes. What's interesting though is that as soon as I turn it on and I've added my my washing up liquid and my water, it actually only goes for 1 minute. So that's really interesting. Don't know if that's a technical glitch or something else, but they may be changing that in the future, you never know. Then we've got the water kettle function, which I find really interesting. So essentially it's going to help you get up to 100 degrees very quickly, which would help when you are using it for steaming. So if you are using something in the Varoma, you're trying to steam veggies and you want this to go a bit faster, I guess you could be heating up your kettle much faster. Now I want to put this to the test and actually put a kettle next to it and see how long this takes versus a kettle, just because I'm interested. You've also got puree mode, which is obviously not new. That's just basically pureeing and speed 10. That's the same thing as before. You've also got another new feature, which is the slow cooking mode, which I'll definitely be taking through the test. And I'll, in my next video, show you some really cool recipes I've made with that and tell you my verdict about it. But that's a really cool new feature. It also means that over 8 hours, you can then basically cook something that's ready for you in the morning to take away for lunchtime. You've also got the sous vide mode, which is a new mode. Again, I'll be looking at that with steak or something really nice to see how that turns out. And then the last one, which I actually got most excited about, and that was the fermentation mode, which is essentially, and you know, I've been doing a little bit of research about it and I have been thinking about it a while. I will still be testing it more, but from my first impression, this is essentially the same as the yogurt mode. So it's currently described as the fermentation mode, although it's not suitable for sourdough because it cannot be used at such a high temperature. Sourdough starter will die in that temperature. The bacteria do not like such high temperatures. And if you're making kimchi or sauerkraut, I don't yet see how that would work. So I'm going to put it through the test. But my initial impression is, it's great that there's one, but it seems like that should be the yogurt function essentially. Now that's my initial impression of the display. You obviously still have your settings here where you can set the language and the country. You have your Wi-Fi settings. You also have your cookie dough and you also can change the display brightness and your volumes. Here you always find the home button, so you can always go back to home. So that was the display, and that was actually most of the technical new features. I'm excited to try some of those in more detail, but so far I must say, on the positives, I love that there's new scales which are much more accurate. Slight downside, they are very sensitive, so you have to make sure that you are very still when you are using them, and I've tried it on many surfaces over the last day. Then the yogurt mode, which I'm really excited about. It's called a fermentation mode right now. I want to see whether that's actually a fermentation mode or whether we're talking about it as a yogurt mode, and that's basically it. I would be slightly disappointed if that was the case, but let's put that through the test in my next video. I'll talk you through the actual normal outside features, the ones that you can touch and feel. So we've got some extra gadgets with this new TM6. We've got some extra features now. So we've got a new spatula, which I quite like actually. I really was fed up with the old spatula, so it's a visible improvement. It's flexible at the top, so you can actually get out your cakes probably much easier. I haven't tested it with cake yet, but from what I've tested so far, I would say it's a really good spatula. It's working really well, and it's also a bit more handy, slick, and you can hang it up, which is really nice. The butterfly is identical to the old butterfly, so exactly the same as the old one. Ta-da! It's the new simmering basket, and basically it is the same simmering basket as before, but it's actually got a lid on it now. And that helps you with the sous vide mode apparently, and also helps you from overfilling it, so you don't put too many potatoes in there. I'm a notorious overfiller, so I would literally always go above when I make any potatoes or anything like that. So we'll see how that performs when I'm putting it to the test with this added new restriction for me. But apparently it will help you with your sous vide and your other modes as well. So I can't wait to put that one to the test. There is a new feature which is called a splash guard. Now we have a new frying function, and this is something I'm a little bit disappointed with right now. So there is 2 new epic functions which you haven't seen yet in these pre-dial programs. And one of them is for the splash guard, and that's the frying function. You can now start frying your meat without it actually cooking, but really creating those lovely frying aromas. So it goes up to 160 degrees, which is amazing and sounds like a wonderful plan. And the splash guard essentially goes on the top of your mixing bowl to essentially avoid any splashes and splatters of hot oil or cooking oils to actually come into your kitchen, which is wonderful. This one can also fit onto the TM5 bowl, which is wonderful. So you could use it for making your jams, for example, if you're making jams instead of the simmering basket on top, which is sometimes really annoying, I find. So that's a really cool new addition that I really like. Now here comes the downside of that whole thing. I tried to use the frying function, so I was like, where is that frying function of ours? And what turns out to be the case is that you can only use the frying function in combination with a recipe. So as of now, there has to be a recipe that I enable on the Cookie Do platform to use that frying function only in combination with that recipe. I find that slightly disappointing so far. I obviously found my way around it very quickly because I literally just used that function as part of the recipe and then switch off the recipe again. That's my way around it, but that's surely not the case for everything. So I really hope that they change that in future software updates, because that would be a huge downer for me. The other thing is that I haven't mentioned yet is the caramelization function. You can actually now make caramel in this because the heat goes up to 160 degrees, which is absolutely epic. And finally, you can make caramel in a controlled environment without you having to stand there the entire time, waiting for it to be just perfect or the sugar to just burn, and then you go, oh great, I've screwed it up. So actually, it's a wonderful feature. Again, the downside is the exact same with the frying function. You can only do this as part of a recipe, which for me as a blogger and as a vlogger, as a freelancer, recipe developer, and someone who's extremely passionate about making her own recipes is a massive downside, because I now can't make my own recipes and just start using the functionality. I really do hope that there will be a change of that, because it just doesn't make me so happy that I have to use a recipe, then switch off from the recipe, which is my way around it. Not recommending this to you guys, I'm just saying that's what I do. But that's the big downside for me currently with those 2 new additional features, which sound really, really awesome. Back to the outside. So there's a new measuring cup, which is really cool. As before, you had a measuring cup that sort of sat on the lid and it could easily fall out. When you take out your mixing bowl, it would basically just fall out. I'm gonna pop it in and show you. You actually just sit it in, take out the mixing bowl, and it won't fall out. How cool is that? I mean, that's a really good feature, because I remember always taking it out and then my measuring cup had to be held from underneath, and I sort of struggled to just put it down, even if it was hot, for example. And now I can literally just pop it down, no more juices dripping out, and it's perfectly tight. Now, this also helps with the noise control. I've tested it out on the highest speed. I've made some ground hazelnuts because I made some Nutella. It's really nice actually. And I must say it sounds a bit more mute. So it really does make a difference. It doesn't make a gigantic difference as you would say, oh my God, it's actually completely silent now. It's not. But it really does make a difference. And I like that it's more mute and it sounds a bit more hollow rather than really high pitched, which is a really cool new feature. So well done them. And it's also compatible with the TM5 lid. Which brings me to the bowl. The bowl is obviously designed almost exactly the same as before. You have a couple of slight differences. The blade is ever so slightly differently shaped, and the underneath shows you it's green, which basically means that you can't basically mistake it for a TM5 bowl. And that's where the next downside comes. Unfortunately, all of our TM5 bowls will not fit the TM6, which is not really a downside, it's just annoying that we now have to all buy new ones. But I can totally see why, because there's been visible improvements. It's really wonderful, and I actually really like this design of it. Other than that, the outside exterior hasn't changed much. The dial has slightly changed. I must say, big compliment to the scales and the stability of the Thermomix while using this in kneading mode. I've made a couple of breads and I would say it's a lot more stable. I have used it only on my slider though, so I can only say what I've done on my slider. I haven't used it without, which I will be doing and telling you in my next video. But it's been visibly a lot smoother than the TM5. So even better, even more accurate scales, and also this is a lot more stable than it was before. So really, really happy with that. And I think that's a huge selling factor for me because I'm a baker. So I really like that they've improved this one a lot. Now, just a couple more. We've got a new Varoma, which is basically the old Varoma, so it's exactly the same. All of that stays as it was before, so nothing has changed. And that is basically all of your new features, all of your outside and what you can look and see and feel of the Thermomix. I really like how it looks. I really like the improved display. I think it's wonderful that it's large now. It's easy to use, it's fast. The Thermomix sounds much better. It sounds more hollow. The noise is really nice. I'm gonna play you the noise for a second so you can see it. It's not really like super amazing, but hey, here we go. Does sound really good, doesn't it? I do think it's quite nice actually. It sounds a little bit more hollow. It's not so massively in your way anymore, which is really, really awesome. Now, I'm going to be putting some more of these features to the test during the next couple of weeks because I want to give you guys a completely honest review. I'm not sponsored, so this is a completely free thing that I do just for the love of Thermomix because I do love Thermomix and I do love the product and I really am quite excited about this one. I will be testing the sous vide mode, I'll be testing the frying mode, I'll be testing the fermentation mode, and I'll be testing the scales during kneading, different doughs, different strengths of doughs. And if there's anything else that you want me to test during the next week or two, then please leave me a comment underneath this video where I can see what you would like me to test. I'm completely free from any, Thermomix, so you can just leave me any of your honest opinions of what you would like to know and what you'd like to see. It's coming out later this year in most English-speaking countries, so therefore we have a bit of time to really figure out whether we like it or not and what we want to do with it all, knowing that it's now coming out. I'm so far really impressed. I really like my first initial impressions. They're very positive. There are a couple of downsides which I really hope they'll rectify in future software updates, which are really easy to rectify as well in future software updates. But more on that next time in my in-depth review video of the cooking functions. Until then, I wish you a happy time with this video and I'll see you next time.